What's going on, nerds? Welcome back to Comic Book Nerd Nation, episode 59. I'm Fox2. We got Pirate
How's it going, guys?
and the whole effing Brian.
Hey everybody.
He looks like what was her name from the Drew Carey show that had like the wicked eye Mimi? Mimi.
He looks like a librarian.
Yeah, he does look like an old ass librarian or something. I hope those aren't seriously your glasses.
No, they're seriously not my glasses.
That's a good thing. I would have to question a lot of things about our friendship. All right, let's jump right in. Let's talk about tabletop game of the week. Let's start there. It's a new section for those of you that didn't watch last week's episode. We had some fun talking about Marvel Legendary, which is a deck building game based around the Marvel universe. We had a good time talking about it, and so we decided that we're going to feature or try to feature a different tabletop game every week. So, Pirate's got one. You want to talk about it for us?
Yeah. This game is called Flux, and they have different themes of it. They have this one. This is the pirate one. So
No shit, you would have a pirate one.
Yeah, right.
But they have a zombie one, a Wizard of Oz one, space themed one. They have a bunch of different ones, and then they have like multiples of each one. Like there's I think a Pirate 2 and.
So what is it?
Whatnot.
Like, how does it go?
So basically, like what you do is there's only really one basic rule, and it's two basic rules: is play a card or draw a card and play a card. That's it. I don't know if this is kind of glossy.
Basic rules. The only
But,
basic rule I know of is if you shake it more than twice, you're playing with it.
And I like to play with
You
it.
can play with it if you want to. I mean, but so the point is though, you play a card, you draw a card, play a card. Every time there's rule cards, goal cards, and then there's kind of item cards. You can play the rule card, and the rule card changes. Like one of them might be like talk like a pirate. Another
Yarg!
one, yeah, another one might be instead of drawing one card, you draw 4 cards. Another rule card might be instead of playing 1 card, you play 3 cards. You know, the rules continually change, and the whole thing is there's goal cards, and you want to play a goal card that will say you need to collect this item, this item, and this item. Yeah. So once you collect all those items, you lay them out in front of you, your items, you win. But the thing is, though, somebody can lay down another goal card,
And
as
it'll
one of
change
their
up the
actions,
goal.
and it changes
Oh,
everything.
okay.
Or there's cards that steals other people's goals.
It
or
sounds kind of
items.
like Munchkin,
It's kind of, yeah.
which is another game that we'll have to cover at some point.
But
Or
the
we can
cool
play
part
live.
about this game
Yeah.
is when I played it, I had never played it. I bought it, it sat in my car forever, and I was over at a buddy's house, and we're sitting around bored. I was like, hey, I got this game, you want to check it out? And we're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Between me just skimming over the rules, reading the rules, and then us running through a 3-person game, we had it figured out enough to where the next game there was probably 6 or 7 people playing, and everybody loved it. So,
Oh, wow.
you know,
So it's one of those like
one-
super easy learning curve.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I mean and the game. I mean, it was like I think I paid like $16 or $15 for the deck or 2
Now
decks. Or whatever.
how long does the game last? Like when you're playing it time wise, how long does it last?
It says on the box 10 to 40 minutes, but it's
Wow,
also
that's a
one of
good
those
span.
games that I've noticed that it can be. I mean, I think because we played it a lot since then. It was like 10 minutes. I think could be a short game. I don't think we've had any that short, but I mean, there was ones that went on for a while, like reshuffles and everything. So
I see.
it just depends, really, how many people you have and how many people.
And what's
You
you can play with
hard.
2 to how many?
It's 2 to 6 players.
Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. Tabletop game of the week this week is Flux. It's got all kinds of different flavors. 2 to 6 players, anywhere from 10 to 40 minutes play time. Really easy learning curve. It sounds like the rule. There's basically only 2 rules, and then just follow what's on the cards.
So you could probably play drunk.
You could
We did.
Yeah, there you go. He did.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a good game to play after a long night of drinking.
Who makes it? We should throw that in there too.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It is made by Looney Labs.
Looney Labs.
Yeah.
For those Looney Tunes out there.
And for those of you that were watching last week, just for good measure, Marvel Legendary is made by Upper Deck. So no,
Upper
not the
Decker.
kind of Upper Deck that you're thinking, Mr.
The
Pooch.
Upper Decker. Top of the bowl.
All right, let's talk about what we've been reading. Pirate, what about you?
What did I read this week? I didn't read anything. Actually, this I flat out didn't. No books.
Didn't get a chance.
No comics. Yeah, it
That's a
was one of
bummer.
those like
It
kind of
happens.
weird weeks for me. But yeah, I didn't get to read really anything. Oh no, I did. Sailing books. Yeah, so I did read something.
More sailing books, just like last
More
week.
sailing books.
I got you.
This one's about circumnavigating on fucking pennies.
What about you, Brian?
So this week I picked up one book so far, and I picked up Ant-Man #1, which was a lot more enjoyable than my book last week, which was Shield #1. But basically,
Brian,
first-
if you haven't noticed, Whole F and Brian is working from a selfie cam arm
Selfie
thing.
stick.
Selfie stick. That's what it's called. It's kind of special.
it is. But at least
Brian's a special kind of stupid,
I could pee without you guys knowing.
except for the fact that we'd hear it and it would be miserable.
We'll save that for our 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
But
He'll sit down. He'll be sitting off and you hear a plop.
Oh no!
no, I think you can see that happening. I think you'll be able to see me sit down on a toilet.
Oh god!
I'm sure it'll be when he's talking about Batman v Superman, knowing him, and all of a sudden a little big.
Today, I just
He'd be like, "I really think that this movie is gonna be pretty bad."
oh man, I should eat a bunch of Taco Bell so you don't hear the ploop, but you hear the.
The spit and get.
Oh. All right, so Ant-Man.
So Ant-Man #1, and this book follows around Scott Lang, and the beginning was pretty cool. It gave you a quick summary of, his beginnings of him stealing the suit and trying to steal money to save his daughter and stuff like that, and then it goes into he's trying to become a head of security for Stark Industries. And, it's just a basic start. It's not your normal superhero book because it shows you how down on his luck Scott Lang is, and how he's not, living luxury like most of the other superheroes are, and how talks about how he's divorced and stuff like that, and it talks about how he's just recently come back from the dead, and it's a good book. I enjoyed it a lot better than I enjoyed Shield #1. I definitely want to pick up the second issue once it comes out. It's definitely a good read, and see where it goes from there, because I guess Marvel's like, Scott Lang's going to be the Ant-Man in the first Ant-Man movie, so why don't we put out another book with him?
Why don't we make some more money?
Yeah.
They do that for every movie they got coming out, though.
Pretty
They
close.
always, months in advance, they always have some new tweaked launch. I remember when Guardians of the
Guardians of the
Galaxy.
Galaxy, yeah.
And Marvel also puts out a movie prequel comic and stuff like we were talking about last week with what they do with Arrow and Flash. But this book was good. Scott Lang was always a good character. It was unfortunate when he blew up in the early 2000s in Avengers Disassembled, but they brought him back, and this is his first solo series since then.
Wow.
I might have to check that out. I finally got a chance to read some comic books. I went back. I stepped away from the Planet Hulk stuff for a minute to try and catch back up on some stuff that I've been trying to keep up with this year. Batman Eternal being one. I am absolutely a huge fan of this series. If you haven't read Batman Eternal, or if you're way behind on Batman Eternal, you're missing out, because it's right up there with like the 0 Year. I mean, all those really top-notch Batman stories. It's right there. It's got all your favorite characters, no matter who your favorite characters are, because they've gone so deep in the character pool and the way that they're writing the story, that almost every villain that you can think of has been incorporated. Everybody from Professor Pig to Joker's daughter to Mr. Freeze, Killer Croc, I mean, everybody, Clayface. There's just tons and tons of depth. All of the Bat family is in it. And it turns out that, spoiler alert, I guess, I'm still several weeks behind, so I guess this wouldn't be too much of a spoiler. But it is shaping up at the point where I'm at, which I can't remember what issue I left off on, 38 maybe, 39, I can't remember. It's shaping up that the head villain is not Hush like we thought it was going to be, which was awesome in and of itself, because Hush is just one of those characters that is just very captivating. And then it looks like it's going to go another tier up, and Riddler is probably going to be the mastermind. At least at this point, that's what it looks like, which doesn't necessarily surprise me, because if you look at 0 Year, or if you read any interviews with Scott Snyder, or watch that Necessary Evil movie that I was talking about, the documentary that I picked up, or my girlfriend actually picked up for me for Christmas, Scott Snyder talks a lot about how much he likes the Riddler and how he's always truly testing Batman, because what Batman is not necessarily a superhero as we identify with superheroes, but his superpower is the fact that he's the greatest detective of all time. And that polar opposite isn't necessarily like a Ra's al Ghul or a Joker. It's the Riddler, because that's who's going to test your detective prowess, is somebody on that level. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me. Scott Snyder kind of heading up the writing staff for Batman Eternal. Doesn't surprise me that that's the direction they're taking it, but I like it too, because I really liked what they did in 0 Year with Riddler. You guys both read that, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riddler in that was awesome. Just diabolical.
I just like how Eternal brought back a bunch of characters that you haven't seen in a long time. Like, as you said, Hush. Batman Eternal was his first New 52 appearance of Hush.
Mm-hmm.
He brought back Carmine Falcone in the beginning. It was just like...
the Lion.
Yeah, it wasn't... like, there's so many characters, even new characters like, what's her name?
Harper.
Yeah, Harper Row, Alfred's daughter.
Yeah.
Like, they're expanding it, but there's so many characters, and you'd think, oh, so many characters, it's probably a complete chaos, but it's not. They jump around each week.
Yeah.
They'll stay on a story maybe for 2 weeks or 1 week, and they'll jump to where somebody else is within the story, but it's done so
very
like,
seamlessly.
Yeah, that you're not like losing on the other characters when they're not shown.
The only part that I've had a hard time following and really grasping, kind of wrapping my head around, is the storyline with Spectre.
Oh yeah. Well,
they've only hit on that like very briefly, like twice to this point, and now they're showing some stuff with Batwing that
him in his apartment.
Yeah, where his roommate
stuff
is like being haunted now, because it seems like he may have brought back some spirits with him. So I don't know exactly how that's playing into it yet. That could be a whole nother big twist too.
On that, they also, from Batman Eternal, they sprung out to a couple different new books. One being Arkham Manor, which sprung out from Arkham being destroyed in Batman Eternal,
Right.
which is all about, Wayne Manor being the new Arkham Asylum. And then they also have a book called Gotham After Midnight, which has to do all with Jim Corrigan and the Spectre. And stuff
Okay,
like
yeah,
that.
I was going to start reading those, but I just haven't had a chance yet because I want to get caught up on Batman Eternal first. And then the other thing, that leads me to my next thing, the other thing that I was trying to catch up on was the Green Lantern crossover event, the Godhead, or God's Head, I think it's God's Head. It's really good. I like it. I haven't finished it yet. I'm not sure. Is it over now?
Yeah, it's over.
Okay, so it's over, but I'm not quite to the end yet. I think I'm maybe 1 to 2 issues off. At the point where I'm at, they've well, I don't think I want to ruin it just yet. It's still pretty fresh, isn't it? Or did it?
It's been like
It's been a
2
couple
weeks, maybe.
Okay, well, the point where I'm at, Kyle Rayner has the White Ring back from the New Gods, but the White Ring didn't work, so he didn't turn into the White Lantern. And what's the lead New God? What's his
Highfather.
Highfather? It has the life equation. And that's kind of where it just like abruptly let off, which leads me to believe that the next issue is probably the last issue. It's probably like a culmination type issue. I like it. I really like the Green Lantern stuff. I like how well developed each character is with their own background and their own like personality and their own attitude and take on things. You've got Sinestro, who has one type of personality, and then you've got John Stewart, who's almost like a polar opposite of him. But you see these characters who clash in characteristics and personalities, but they have to work together for a common goal. So I always like that about the big Green Lantern crossover stuff.
You get all the cores together.
It really I think it adds a lot of depth and a lot of. It just makes it so much more interesting to me when you have all those different kinds of characters, and attitudes and belief systems and everything like that, and you just layer it on top of each other, and it just makes a really good story. That's what I love so much about those big crossovers. Wrath of the First Lantern, Blackest Night, Brightest Day, all that stuff is just amazing. And that, and Jeff Johns wrote it, which he can basically do no wrong.
When you're done with God's Head, we'll discuss it here live.
Yeah, we'll
I
have
finished
to.
it already.
Yeah, I'll be done by next week. Reading that for sure. So we'll go over a recap and kind of review of what we thought of it and stuff. But that's about it, I think, for what we've been reading. Unless I missed anything. Topher's MIA this week. Supposedly he's seeing a movie or something.
He just messaged me. He may jump on. He overslept.
Wow, that doesn't necessarily surprise me. That's all right. Okay, let's talk about the Ant-Man trailer. I personally have not had a chance to sit down and watch it yet, so you guys are going to have to kind of lead this conversation. What did you think, Pirate?
I liked it. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a very serious role, seeing Paul Rudd in this. Until like the very end, there was kind of like he had one of his kind of
well, it was like the
acting,
the humor you see in all the Marvel movies.
Yeah,
that was thrown into the trailer.
Yeah, kind of like this big build up, and then ha ha ha, and then that's it, and then it says the title screen comes out. I think it's going to be really good. I was impressed with it. The suit looks even better in this trailer because it shows everything. Him shrink down. I think it's going to be really good. I'm actually excited to see this. Well, not that I'm not excited to see any movie Marvel's put out, but yeah.
What
I think it's
about
gonna be
what
pretty
about
good.
you, Brian? You're the
Yeah, I
negative
agree. I
Nancy of the
mean,
group.
I agree. I think it looked really good. It was really surprising to see how good it looked because this was the one movie that everybody was like, huh, I wonder how good it could be because you had the trouble with Edgar Wright and all that like not even a year ago, and everybody was, oh, this is the first Marvel movie that had any kind of like really big trouble or anything like that. And then the trailer came out. I was just like, I'm impressed. I mean, seeing Paul Rudd with abs, like, was just like, no, that's not Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd doesn't have abs. He's talking about Sex Panther and stuff like that.
You gotta have
But
abs if you're gonna come at Sex Panther like that.
it looked really impressive. I liked the one scene where you saw him shrink down. I liked how it looked so far. I mean, you saw the one part where he's riding on a flying ant,
Yeah.
and that looked pretty good. And they got the whole tone of the backstory of Scott Lang pretty good in that trailer. I mean, just what I talked about before with the Ant-Man comic, like it had all the bits and pieces there. I mean, the one problem I had with the movie when it was started to be talked about was how old Hank Pym was going to be, and he wouldn't be the main character. And this is kind of like a passing of the torch movie, which is I like because we get so many origin movies that it's kind of like, okay, like we gotta sit through an origin movie and then wait 2 years for an actual legit like story. But this is more, it feels more of a passing of the torch story because Scott Lang isn't the first Ant-Man, so you don't have to go through him building the suit and coming up with the Pym particles and shit like that. You get the full like, oh, this is his background, and it's like a passing of the torch movie.
So how do you think? Like, do you anticipate that this is going to tie into the other Marvel cinematic movies, or do you think that it's going to like be kind of left on its own?
Well, they said it would be. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this last week, but like this movie's coming out after Age of Ultron, and Age of Ultron's supposed to be some devastating movie where Ultron's trying to fuck up the world. So you don't know if this movie's timeline is actually gonna take place after all that happened, and if they're gonna talk about it, like you're gonna see some shit that happened or the devastation after. I don't know. Like that's the only thing like I'm really questioning for this movie. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the timeline. He's going to pop up in Infinity War, I bet.
Yeah, I would imagine that they would. I would imagine that at some point they'll cross. All of these movies are going to cross paths at some point, and I have a feeling you're right. It's probably going to be the Infinity War. That's like just the scope of that is so massive that
You know what, though?
they almost couldn't.
I read something that they said that the way Marvel does their timelines, like I know Thor, I think it was, let's see, Thor, Iron Man 2, and the Incredible Hulk takes place within 5 or 7 days. Is like a 5 or 7 day time span that all three of those movies take place.
Thor
So
2 and
because-
Incredible Hulk.
No, Thor 1.
Thor 1,
Uh-huh.
Iron Man 2, and Incredible Hulk all take place within like 5 to 7 days of everything going on. And then, so even though this movie can come out later or whatnot, we may not see the devastation from Age of Ultron, but it may be going on simultaneously, like in a different area than as to what's going on with the Avengers.
That's true. I would say, I would think that it would be like at the same time as Age of Ultron or after. Like, I don't think you could have Age of Ultron release and then Ant-Man be before Age of Ultron in the timeline. So I'd say it'd have to be either at least at the same time or past
I mean,
that.
you could. They've done movies that have been Like if you look at like the movies and the way you should watch them,
Mm-hmm.
they've been released scattered.
Oh,
Like,
really?
They're not. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I mean, they could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would think this far in though that they probably have it planned out in like
Oh, yeah.
story order to try and get you to go to
yeah.
all of them.
I would think so, but I mean, you're going to go to all of them regardless. But I mean, yeah, at this point,
It's
though, I
true.
think that I think you're right. I think that they would pretty much have it.
I would
You know,
hope
lined
so.
up,
It makes it
linear,
it makes
you
it a
know.
lot more palatable for a viewer, especially if it's somebody that's not real into the comic book end of it and just likes the movies. It makes it a lot easier to swallow if they can just jump in at any point and chronologically it makes sense.
Well, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not. But see, here's the thing about Marvel. That's not going to happen because now that they've introduced the cosmic universe, you have two lines now
Yeah.
that you have to watch, and then for them to intersect. So
Yeah.
I think they still could. They could do it either. They'll make it work.
I'm sure
I mean,
they
as
will.
of right now, I'm sure they'll make it work. I mean, they could prove me wrong, but they're just because they're the top dog, don't mean they can get knocked off the pedestal. You know what I mean?
That's true.
You also have to take into picture with crossing over that Ant-Man doesn't have to be part of this Avengers team. I mean, all these actors' scripts are coming out and they're adding new characters in, so there might be a whole new team.
Yeah. That's very possible. They may do a West Coast Avengers, or they could take it a lot of different directions depending on how wide they want to build this universe, or if they want to keep it like we said in one kind of main channel with like two. Like you said, we've got the Galactic universe, and then we've got the Avengers, and those are pretty clearly going to intersect, but they may branch out and do something like we already know that the Inhumans is going to happen. So who knows? Who's to say that they won't branch it even wider and take all that stuff in a whole nother direction and make this a really widespread movie franchise? We don't know. We're just gonna have to wait and see. But let's talk about some news that we've got for Deadpool fans. If you're a fan of Deadpool, unfortunately, he's going to die.
He's going to be back though.
He's going to die in the 250th issue this April. They have announced, they didn't say much about it, but we know he's going to die. What makes you say he's going to be back?
Because of the movie.
Yeah, they always bring back characters from movies.
Fair
That's
enough.
probably why they're killing him. They're going to take a break so they can rewrite him to better suit the theme and the feel of the movie.
That, and we all know that number ones sell great, so it could be a big boost in
Well,
popularity right before the.
Plus, yeah, I mean, he's Deadpool. He can't die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the motherfucker. Like,
Clearly he can. I mean, they killed off
But,
Wolverine.
Yeah,
So
but also you got to think like with this Battle World Secret Wars thing coming up, and it's seemingly rewriting Marvel or them doing some sort of reboot. Like this story, like we talked about either last week or a few weeks ago, does it even matter? Because
Yeah.
if they rewrite the universe, if they reboot it, then he's just going to be back.
if it's a total reboot, we still haven't, we still don't know
we
for
don't
sure
know,
if it's a reboot or if it's just going to be like a combining of different threads of the multiverse, or if it's, we don't really know what direction that it is that they're going to take that in. So, not to mention, you got to ask yourself this too: is if a character dies prior to whatever this cataclysmic event is, do they stay dead? Is there a possibility for them to come back somehow? That has been unanswered as well. So
They're not going to
Yeah.
make a movie over a character who's completely dead in the comics.
well,
that's-
that's
They're not going to do it,
that's true.
regardless
I
of who
suppose.
manufactures the movie. Like,
Yeah.
that's just horrible sales and marketing. Like, I mean, if somebody else makes it, if Fox, since Fox is making this movie and Marvel's making the comic, Fox is basically paying for free publicity for Marvel's comics.
Yeah,
They're not going to get rid of a comic book just because another company pushes
Well,
a movie out. Say, oh,
Peter
we're-
Parker
we're
came
not paying
back.
for more.
Peter
came
Parker.
back.
Peter Parker was dead actually when when
Amazing Spider-Man.
the Spider-Man
Amazing
movie
Spider-Man
came out.
2 came out. Not
When
1.
2 came out,
Two.
he came back though. That's around the time he came back.
Oh, I thought it was the other
It
way
was
around.
after. It was after
Yeah,
for sure.
it was. Well, no, the number 1 came out right after the movie.
Yeah.
But the character, but Spider-Man was still around.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man. Well, Superior Spider-Man.
Well, nonetheless, though, I mean, you're not going to take away Deadpool. Spider-Man, you could probably isn't probably the greatest example simply because there was already 3-4 other movies out based on that one. But Deadpool being a new character, like there's going to be a lot of people that is going to see the preview or know of it simply because they've seen the preview, and they're going to maybe check out comics like we talked about last week. New comic buyers are going to be like, oh, what's this Deadpool about? So they go and get a Deadpool comic, and read it. I think that, I mean, he'll be back by the time the movie comes.
I mean,
Wolverine.
you're
back by
probably
the
right.
time the Deadpool movie comes.
You're probably right. Well, how long do you think Wolverine's going to be dead for?
Oh God. I don't
we
know
say,
if
6
Wolverine's
months?
really dead.
I haven't kept up with it at all.
I don't read it, but I've been told that in that book, what is it called? Weapon X that they came out with after Wolverine died, that there's a guy running around, and I don't know if it's a clone body. It's not Wolverine's memories fully, but it's like a clone body, because at the end of the first issue, he looks in a mirror and it's Wolverine's face. So they're doing one of those things.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can say
so
he's
that-
really dead.
So Marvel strikes again, basically, with like this is just a whole nother fucking giant marketing ploy to add sales numbers, like calling it Wolverine's death, and then basically like, oh, gotcha, like he's not actually dead. Well, he's dead,
no.
but we have an exact duplicate.
In that same comic book, that facility he blows up to in the facility he was at when he died, when he got frozen in that adamantium, that's where these experiments that you see in that last issue. In this issue, you see the experiments and they're trying to escape, and when the facility blows up, you see the frozen Wolverine, or whatever you want to call it, the Han Solo Wolverine, fly off, like get exploded and fly off. But I thought the synopsis in this new book, Wolverines, that have to do with like Sabretooth and X-23, I thought the synopsis was they're fighting over that Wolverine carbonite thing. I don't know. But it's like, Marvel always does that shit. They always like, he's dead, but wait, there's a clone, or wait, they're fighting over his body.
It's like they want the sales from something like killing off a character, but they don't have the balls to actually kill off the character.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I just, for me, I lose a lot of respect for the storyline when stuff like that happens, because
exactly.
you pump it up, you advertise it for literally months, to the point where you had covers every week coming out, like 3 weeks till Death of Wolverine, 2 weeks till Death of Wolverine, 1 month or 1 week till he dies. All this shit for weeks and weeks. I mean, and then now it's like you're making it worthless. You're making all that gravity that you tried to put into this thing. You're just taking it and like, oh, but it doesn't really matter that he's dead, because we have Wolverine 2.0, which is literally the exact same thing. He looks exactly the same, smells exactly the same, and he has all the same memories because of some fucking weird-ass experiment that was happening at some random facility that you've never heard about before. Like, it makes the whole fucking thing worthless to me. That's just my take on it.
No, you're right. That's absolutely what it feels like.
It's just to me hearing that, like, I stopped reading it after the death, but like it makes me wish I never even went out and bought those comic books in the first place. It makes me wish I hadn't wasted my time reading it or caring about it or anything like that, because it's just like it was clearly just some idea that some sleazeball marketing guy at Marvel had that was like, hey, if we do this, we'll get 20% increase on net revenue. And it has nothing to do with writing a good story or producing a good product.
That it starts with the marketing ploy, or do you think it's ideas pitched by the writers?
No, I think
And
that
then marketing gets a hold of it.
I think that something this big that was marketed that far out and everything, I think that started out as a fucking marketing gimmick. Absolutely.
Really?
I think that
I've always
I think
wondered how
that
they do
I think
that.
Marvel editorial staff or whoever the powers that be went to the writers and said, "Here's what you're going to write it."
Yeah.
And then that's how they ended up doing it. And then whether or not they knew how it was going to end with the cheap gimmicky twist at the end or not, I don't know. But Topher's on here. I don't know if he's ever going to speak up and talk or not.
This is
but
the quiet he's ever been talking about.
I know.
Marvel Comics.
I know. We were talking about
I
X-Men
haven't-
too.
I haven't read Death of Wolverine yet, so I've been trying to ignore what you guys are saying. So
Oh.
I haven't read it yet.
Fair enough. Good morning, sunshine.
Morning.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. Batman v Superman, the movie, allegedly
Favorite.
is going to be split into 2 movies now. I like this. I think this is a good move. I think
I hate this.
that there was a lot of material to cover, and most of the complaints that I've heard from most of you guys is that they're covering too much material. This gives them more real estate to cover that material adequately. This answers all of the problems, a lot of the problems that a lot of people have been bringing up. Have been saying that there's too much to cover. There's too much, there's too many characters. You're not going to be able to address each character sufficiently in an hour and a half or 2 hour long film. Okay, well, they're looking at that and they're clearly taking that under advisement because they're considering making it into two separate films. Now you have 4 hours. That's a lot of time to cover a lot of ground. I mean,
Why didn't they just do this from the beginning?
Yeah, I think it's a smart move. Like if they hadn't been talking about all the other stuff they're doing, then like I don't know, I'd wonder about it because like anytime somebody decides, oh, we're gonna break this movie into more movies, it's like, okay, did you not have a plan? Did you not know where this was going? Like, are you just now realizing this? But given where we're at with it and how I was already feeling with everything they were trying to cram in there, I think it's a step in the right direction from the point that we're at right now.
The other thing that we have to consider as a possibility in this day and age is that this may have been the plan from the jump.
Oh, it had to have been.
You know what I'm
It had to have
saying?
been,
Like,
because they're already doing the backup shots right now.
that's
They're
what
the
I
ones second to do
yeah,
it.
that's what I'm saying. They
But
may
they
have
went
had
into
this
this knowing it was
in
gonna
the
be two.
in the game, in the works from the very beginning of the game. And they may have just been releasing out information as they see fit to get people excited, to get people speculating, get people talking about their movie, good or bad. Either way, it's publicity. It's word of mouth. It's spreading the word about the fact that they're making the movie. It's on people's mind. Brian wants to say he hates the shit out of that movie. Regardless whether he hates it or he loves it, motherfucker is talking about it and he's posting it all over the internet. That's free advertising for them.
Don't call it a comeback.
So all I'm saying is I think that this may have been a marketing plan by them to get word of mouth going. And you know what? We know the whole time, well, this is a lot of shit. We're going to start announcing all these people and all these characters and everything, and we'll leak some pictures here and there, and then at some point we'll announce that we're going to do 2 movies, which is clearly a better decision if you're going to, try and develop, 6, 7 different characters. 4 hours is a lot better to do it with than 2, obviously. So
My thing is, I'm just not a huge fan of the shoot once and then release twice, like, technique. Like, I think the only movie that ever did that great was Back to the Future 2 and 3, because it was literally 2 different movies, but they just.
what about Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
See, Lord of the Rings, yeah, but Lord of the Rings is like not. I'm not going to watch Batman v Superman for 3 hours in 3 different sections. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of those ones where you don't need that much fucking backstory, dude, to fucking.
No, but I'm saying technique-wise, they shot that stuff
Well,
together
I know that. I
and
mean,
then
there's a lot
released
of
it.
movies that they've done that. I mean, we've had this conversation
Right.
before. It's just I think the only one that did it right and left at a good point. Like the new Hobbits are a prime example. Like I thought the second one was left at a horrible point. With Smaug flying into the city. It's like, God damn it, now I gotta wait a year.
They tried to turn one book into 3 movies there. Like that one's questionable anyway. But I mean, Marvel's doing it too. The third Avengers movie is going to be a 2-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but
they
I'm
had
just
that.
saying.
I don't think DC had this in the works. I think Marvel.
I don't think so either.
Because like at first, what year was it at Comic-Con? I think it was last year at Comic-Con when they announced the movie. At first, they strictly said it was going to be a Man of Steel sequel. Then a few months later, they said, no, it's not. It's going to be a Batman vs. Superman movie. And then they started like, oh no, this character is going to be in this, and this, and this. I don't think they actually had it that planned out as Marvel usually
think
does.
Once they started shooting, they knew. Once they scheduled shooting schedule.
Oh, once they started shooting, once they got into shooting,
that's when they knew, because they've already wrapped up almost all the location scenes. They're going back for secondary shots right now, and then it goes into post. So they've known, and they've had schedules for enough for 2 films.
I think
So
they've known from. I think they've known
time they
from the
started.
jump, all the way from when they announced it at San Diego Comic-Con. I just feel like a corporation as big as DC is, they've got a plan, and they know what's going to get people talking, and they made the right decisions, saying the right things at the right times, and they've gotten the buzz around the internet is around this movie. It's people, people are going to see it, whether they think it's going to be good or they think it's going to be bad, because if they want to see it because they think it's going to be good, that's why they want to see it. If they think it's going to be bad, they want to see it so they can talk shit about it. Either way, they've done the right things and said the right stuff and leaked the right information to the point where fans of it are going to see it because they're fans. People that don't think it's that it's gonna be good are gonna see it so that they can hopefully talk shit about it. Brian's a perfect example. Brian, you're gonna see this movie.
Oh yeah,
You're gonna see this movie.
I'm
You've talked more shit about it than
opening
probably
day.
99% of the internet.
Yeah, probably.
So, I mean, point in case, like that's the hardest person to market a film to, is the person that is convinced that it's gonna be a bad film. They've already sold tickets to that person.
But if people are smart and hate it, you want to go see it so you could not be like, man, I hate it, so I'm not going to go see it. No, don't do that. Go see it and go make sure the reasons you hate it are there. I mean, don't hate the Yankees and not watch a baseball game because your favorite team is playing the Yankees. You watch it because you want your team to win. I'm going to go see Batman. Not that I want it to fail. If it does good, then, I'm happy to be wrong. But I'm going to go watch it and
He's
tiptoeing.
He's tiptoeing backwards right now. Can you
No,
feel it? I can feel it. He's slowly easing himself back.
No,
He's not backing up from his point.
Oh, he's
but-
gonna be backpedaling before this movie comes out.
I'm gonna go see it, yeah, because I want to be the first one to see it and be like, hey, it was bad, and here's why. I want to be there opening night.
I
so-
can't wait for that podcast after that movie. It's gonna be an hour and a half long argument.
Yeah. But I think hating something and not like giving it a try is like just dumb. That's being stubborn.
Have they said what the release schedule is when they're going to be doing the two?
No.
Is
The
first
first
one
part,
still
no,
gonna be-
yes, they did. They had a little
did they?
screen capture. The first part is coming out. It's supposed to be coming. If it's real, it's coming out this year, the end of this year.
Oh, so even earlier than the whole movie.
Yeah,
The
then I think the
original one movie is going to be.
The second part was moved. I don't know if it's March of 2016 or it's back to a couple of weeks before Captain America.
Oh wow.
There's a little screen grab of it floating around somewhere. I don't know if it's on comicbookmovies.com or
But does that have
Something like that.
the adjusted like timelines of the movies?
no.
Or they
I think
had
that's
the,
just the only thing that changed around in that timeline we saw.
Because they had a bunch of unannounced movies, and it would make sense if they could just throw one of those in there.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that was just it. I think those couple of unannounced movies were saved for a Batman and Superman standalone movie.
Mm. Okay, now there's something that I want to cover. We're veering a bit off topic here, a little off the comic book wagon, if you will. But I feel like this.
Something good to complain about.
I feel like
this is stupid.
I feel like this is something good to complain about, and it needs to be addressed. And I feel like there's no better group of gentlemen to just take a look at this and dissect it. Now I realize that some of you, maybe some of you that are on this podcast, maybe some of you that are listening to this podcast or are Facebook fans or whatever, you may be fans of Kanye West, and that's fine. He's got some good music. He's got some shitty music. That's all good. So this may not be directed directly towards you, but Kanye has some real fucking idiots for fans. Not all of them, but there are some of them out there that are over the top.
You said he has some good music? Where does he keep that stuff?
I don't know. In his pockets of his leather sweatpants.
It's called these farts.
Okay, so let me break down the situation, and then we'll dive into the
dissection.
Yeah. I'm at a loss for words just because of how fucking ignorant this is. So Kanye West released a new single. Paul McCartney's on it with him. And after the single's released, people started posting all kinds of stuff about the single on Kanye West's Twitter. And his fans were saying things like, I really love Kanye so much for giving unknown artists like Paul McCartney a shot. And this Paul McCartney guy is going to end up being so famous thanks to Kanye. I'm gonna flip it over to Topher just because I love the facial expressions I'm getting from him right now. Let's have it, shall we? Have at ye.
Oh my God! Wow! This reminds me of a story my dad always used to tell. He used to work with some younger guys back in I don't know what, like the early to mid '80s, and he overheard him talking one day. And do you guys know the band Wings? You ever heard of the band Wings? Yeah. So they're sitting around talking one time, and he walks past and he hears them talking, and the one guy says to the other one, he's like, "Did you know Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings?" And the other guy was like, "What? Really?" And like he told that story for years, like.
How do you not
that's all I can hear in my head now. It's like, and these people, they're
even in this generation. How do you? I mean, this is the age of information. Like how Paul McCartney. I mean, you said it best before the show, Pirate. He's a fucking knight. It's Sir Paul McCartney. It's not like he's unknown. The motherfucker is famous beyond music. Like it's not just the fact that he was part of the Beatles. I mean, fuck's sake, how do you not know? How can you even pretend to be a fan of music and not know who Paul McCartney is?
Because technically they're kind of not. I mean, they are obsessing and twittering about Kanye West. So
I'm just saying, like that's like saying you don't. That's like saying like you don't know who Jimi Hendrix is. You know?
I had this discussion with somebody at work. How everything is nowadays, and how all this garbage bullshit music is pushed, and the internet and stuff like that. Things like in like 10 years, once like the generation before us, or the generation like our parents' generation, like dies off. That as morbid as it sounds, once that happens, a lot of shit will be lost with them that came before them, before their generation. Like, my buddy at work was listening to like Mozart or Bach, and I was listening to something else, and he's like, "Do you think people What are you listening to? Do you think those people would remember that shit? I'm like, yeah, because it's more prominent on YouTube and Facebook than Bach and stuff like that. The only reason you hear Bach now mostly is in either like
School.
a dentist office, school, or like a doctor's office. A lot of that
Motherfucking
shit.
samples it and shit.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
yeah,
You'll hear
that.
it, so you'll through a sample.
But again, people will think that it's that person's music, not
yeah.
not a sample, just as in the Paul McCartney situation. A lot of this shit is just gonna die off once certain generations get old and are gone.
It's just atrocious to me that people are so far removed from history, from defining moments of like the music culture that is, you know, what music is today is due largely in part to the Beatles.
It's not,
And-
but a lot of the music that's popular now, not to cut you off, but is not music. It's people playing on their goddamn computers, and it's kind of like sick.
I mean,
They're just ripping samples
I think there's a place for that as music. I do. I think there's a place for electronic music as music, but I think that shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't lose sight of where everything kind of started and where, you know, not started, but where the ball got rolling, so to speak, and, you know, Bob Dylan and the Doors and the Beatles and I mean, I don't
As
know.
much as I think it's ridiculous for them, what you're saying only applies to related genres. Like, yeah, they got the ball rolling for rock, but you know, and for a lot of related genres, but it even started before them, you know, with blues and with a bunch of
Right.
you know.
I agree with that.
And like black artists in the South and doing all kinds of, you know, stuff that eventually led there. You know, I mean, like
Eventually led
you-
to Jimmy
you
Page
can-
ripping off.
I mean, you could people in the '60s were saying, you know, wow, the Beatles, really, this bubblegum crap, it sucks. You know, like why don't people, you know, people don't appreciate the classics like
Are
Bach.
you
and
are you
Mozart,
trying to
you know?
say that someday people are going to look back and say that Kanye West is like the Paul McCartney of their time? I seriously hope that's not the
No, I hope not, but no. All I'm saying is that yes, like you can like Paul McCartney and the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan and all the people you mentioned were very instrumental, no pun intended, to the you know, to the formation of a lot of music and a lot of genres. Electronic stuff and the stuff Kanye's doing, I don't think it is. In fact, I'd like the Beatles less if they helped spawn Kanye West, you know? So, I mean, like, yes, it's older music and it came before, but I don't necessarily know that people who are fans of Kanye need to give, you know, praise to the Beatles for
I mean, not necessarily saying that they
for
need
where
to.
music is today.
I'm
It
not
depends on
saying
what
that
kind
they
of
need to
music you
give
like.
praise to the Beatles necessarily, but motherfuckers ought to at least know who he is. Like, if you're a fan of Kanye West, clearly you're a fan of pop culture. And one of the biggest icons of pop culture in the last 100 years are the Beatles. Like, that's just a fact. Like, there's no two ways around that.
Yeah, I still think they're dumb for not knowing who he is, but
Thank you.
They probably his fans probably don't even know who that LL Cool J used to be a rapper instead of a TV star.
That's probably true. Or, what's Ice-T?
Or Ice-T.
Yeah.
They probably
Before he was a cop, he was a cop killer.
Yeah.
They probably don't even know that Ice Cube
Fresh
was a
Prince.
rapper, other than being in family comedies.
Fresh Prince was Fresh Prince and DJ
DJ
Jazzy
Jazzy
Jeff.
Jeff.
Then he was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Then he was Will Smith, the rapper. Then he was
getting jiggy with it. No,
yeah.
no, no,
then
no,
then
no,
he
no.
was now he's
now he's a
father
Deadshot.
of yeah.
Oh,
now he's
yeah.
Deadshot and the
God.
father of two of the most ridiculous children on the
It's that
face
whole-
of the
it's
earth.
like when
Why?
raise
You
your
don't wanna
kid into
whip your hair back and
Scientology,
forth?
dude.
Oh my god! Don't get me started on fucking the two Smith kids. Was it Jaden and Willow?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You didn't like the new Karate Kid movie where he actually does kung fu?
Have you
and it has
heard?
nothing to
Have
do
you
with
honestly?
karate?
Have you read any of their interviews? Anybody?
Oh
on here?
God,
Oh,
yeah.
dude, yeah,
The
no, I
things they
read
say
that.
Just
are
knee deep in pretentious bullshit.
the things they say are
Look at
totally
the
out of
dude's
hand.
Fucking Twitter fucking tweets that the fucking son, what is it, Jaden?
There's a whole list
Look at
on
it.
all their tweets,
Dude, it's so fucking hilarious. Dude, the dude makes no sense whatsoever.
Is there really?
and they're Scientologists.
Jaden.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will Smith is a Scientologist.
He started a school, a Scientologist school that was not Scientologist, or was not Scientology, that he said, and all these people started sending their kids there, and then they realized it was Scientology, and he, I think, got sued or something.
I wish
Wow.
I could find their tweets real fast, but I don't see it on here.
There was one, it was like,
We'll save it for next week.
yeah.
Here's one from somebody replying to one of his. It says, "I'm on that Jaden Smith flow. Like, is there life out there in space? Can I time travel? Is there another me in a parallel universe?" These are the fucking answers that they give to. Oh, here we go. Here's a couple. Anything you see in a magazine, any magazine ever, is fake. How can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real? If
Wow.
newborn babies could speak, they would be the most intelligent beings on planet Earth.
With their baby brains.
Oh, Megatron's back.
Megatron. There is no nutrients
Wow.
in our food anymore, or in our soil, or in our water. You can discover everything you need to know about everything by looking at your hands.
Oh my God! You have to stop. Make it stop.
If a bookstore never runs out of a certain book, does that mean that nobody reads it or everybody reads it? Or here's the one that takes the cake. Most trees are blue.
What?
Fuck this kid. Fuck him
I'm
in
gonna
his
go-
little fucking asshole. This
Most
kid is
trees are blue.
the most pretentious, self-entitled piece of shit in the universe. Period. He's read like 3 books, and he thinks he knows everything that there is to know about the entire universe. Fuck off.
Scientologists, don't they?
If I drink sprinkles, will my duty twinkle?
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Oh my God! You're making my brain hurt. We
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
something else. Did you see that Diamond released their stats for last year on the top the numbers for market share and
Oh
and
no, let's hear it.
top comic books. So the top comic books, the top 10 were Amazing Spider-Man #1.
Okay.
And it was boring.
Yeah, 9 of the 10 are all Marvel comics. #2 is The Walking Dead, #132. #3 is Rocket Raccoon, #1. 4 and 5 are Death of Wolverine, 1 and 4. #6 is the new female Thor, #1. #7 is Original Sin, the first issue. 8 and 9 are Death of Wolverine 2 and 3, so that series did really well. And #10 was Superior Spider-Man #31, which was the last issue.
So what all this proves to me is that Marvel is going to keep doing the same nonsense of rebooting fucking titles, and the more #1s, the better, because that's where they all
Well,
end up, is on that fucking list.
They've been saying for years that what sells are crossovers,
and number
event
ones.
books, and #1s. So looking at retail market share, Marvel Comics came in at 34%, DC almost 29%, and then Image with 9%, and Dark Horse and IDW at around 5%. But here's interesting. Who do you think shipped more comics, more titles last year, DC or Marvel? Like, just from what you've seen on shelves and whatnot,
DC.
who would you say
Oh, DC for
shipped
sure.
more?
DC
Marvel.
for sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
we
you.
can
Okay,
hear you.
I couldn't see this. I'm gonna say
So-
Marvel.
Yeah,
Marvel,
I'd say DC.
Brian, what do you think?
I agree with Doug. DC.
Really? See, I would have said Marvel. but it is DC.
Wow.
DC shipped 1,107 new titles last year. Marvel only did 953. So that's like, every week I go to the comic book store and I look at the shelf and all the shelf space for Marvel and this book and that book, and it seems like DC always has fewer books, and I'm always like so pissed off at how just the volume of shit Marvel puts out. It's like, damn it, I don't want to have to buy all this stuff. But
DC has a lot of books that a lot of comic book stores, other than the big ones, don't carry too.
True.
Like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and I think there's a Simpsons title.
Now, does that count DC Vertigo as well? Strictly DC.
Vertigo is not listed on this list, so I would assume that imprints. I would guess that imprints are included with the parent company. But yeah, DC shipped 16% more books last year than Marvel, which is interesting because Marvel's market share is 34% versus DC's 29%. So like, I don't know if it's just clearly they're selling more of those titles, and they're charging more for them.
Yeah.
A lot of DC's books, I think, are still $2.99. Most of Marvel's are $3.99.
I think part of it is too that DC or Marvel's got the cinematic universe right now. That's a big part of it. People go out, they watch the fucking movie, and then they go they get all fucking hopped up, and they go to the comic book store and buy some comics. And what are they seeing? They're seeing Marvel movies, so they're buying Marvel comics. I mean, that's the brutal reality of that's the trickle-down effect of having good movies. That's it.
I think I've got all the comics on that top 10 list. Though some of them were cheating because that Walking Dead number 132 at number 2. The only reason it's that high is because Loot Crate bought like a 250,000 of them and distributed that one in their November or December.
October.
Yeah. Okay.
So October.
Apparently, Rocket Raccoon was in a Loot Crate earlier this year back in June too, but I didn't have Loot Crate back then, so I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So, well, that's some pretty interesting. I mean, that's a pretty interesting way to look at the comic book industry too, though, to see like how it's going sales wise versus number of titles and which titles are topping it out and stuff like that. Obviously, any titles that Loot Crate picks up for all of their subscriber base are always going to hit that top 10 list every time, I'm sure. But that's just the nature of the beast. Well, that's about it for this week. Unfortunately, we didn't get to talk to Topher too much. Thankfully, he showed up for the latter half. Hopefully, he's here for next week. Actually, Topher, you haven't even been. I'll go ahead and just chime you in on this real quick. This is the second week we've done Tabletop Game of the Week. So we feature a different tabletop game each week and just kind of talk about it and stuff like that. I thought that might be something interesting for you, so think about that. Every week we're going to come up with something different to talk about. That's about it for this week. I'm Fox2. We got Pirate.
See you guys.
Topher.
Maybe I'll be on time next week.
And the whole effing Brian.
Trees are really blue.